Hey there, gym owners. I hope you're well. It's Steve from Gym Hub, giving you another update on our 21 errors that gym owners make and what you should be doing instead. Today, I want to talk to you about reactive retention, how that actually makes it really difficult to grow a $1 million fitness business and what you should be doing instead. So reactive retention is something that I was sort of taught in the early days, maybe 20 years ago when brands like Fitness First were number one in the market. They had the largest, following. They had the most number of gyms, and reactive retention was essentially when someone looked to quit or someone was unhappy, you would then sort of send in the sales team to try and convince them otherwise. And what you and I have since learned is people dislike that. They'll go online. They'll aggressively talk about, the lack of service, the broken equipment, and all the things that were actually wrong with the actual the gym that they were training at the time. And in my opinion, reactive retention's too little, too late. If you haven't looked after someone while they were a member, in my opinion, you don't really deserve to keep them as a member. What's the problem? Why do we have to consider retention? There's probably a few reasons. Hey, Steve, I hope you're well. Thanks for logging in. There's probably a few reasons why you need to consider more proactive retention strategies these days when it comes to running your gym. Number one is there's more competition than ever before. There's actually 5 times the number of gyms in the marketplace than there were 15 years ago. So it's not in your head. It's not like a fear or a lack of abundance thinking or something like that. There is actually more gyms. There is actually more competition. Because of that, there's price wars. And because most gyms actually provide the same concept to rower, the same 24-hour access, and essentially the same service and product, there is a bit of a competition when it comes to finding new members and finding good staff, because it's essentially the same thing. The other reason you have to be a bit more proactive these days in retention is a lot of our marketing is very similar. So for gyms that are still actually winning their clients and they're actually acquiring members by doing a 7-day free pass or no joining fee, you're actually acquiring a client not because you're good at a particular product or service, but you're acquiring a client because you're the cheapest. And unfortunately, what then happens is when someone else becomes the cheapest, you then lose them and there's no real loyalty there. So that's why we need retention these days, and even more so than we did 5 years or 10 years ago. And reactive retention, which we were sort of taught from the big box gyms many years ago, where you just kind of dive in there and you desperately try and resell someone that's looking at leaving and unhappy with you. You and I both know that's a nightmare to do as a business owner, and it's nothing that they enjoy. The members that are unhappy. So the fix for this is to use proactive retention. Today, I've actually got a 12-step strategy that I use for retention. We go through with the Gym Hub members and we do a 12-month retention calendar where you can actually automate some of these processes so that you don't have to sort of be sitting there thinking about it yourself. But instead, some of them are sort of happening, they're in the calendar and they're happening without you, and other things you need to proactively do yourself. Let's go through 4 quick fixes for this. So number 1 is calls. So one thing I would recommend is any new member joins your gym, call them in the first week. Make sure that they have all the tools, they have all the information that they need to be successful. And if you onboard them well, you'll find that they'll actually stay longer because they've got all the tools and information they needed to be successful. So the first call should be in week 1. I also then recommend doing a call every 6 weeks or so to check in. And what you're trying to do here is check that they've still got a goal, they've got a purpose for actually exercising. If you call someone and they no longer need to lose weight or they no longer are training for a half marathon, it's our job as a fitness professional to help them find something else to work towards. And whenever someone starts, considering their gym membership and whether it's good value, who doesn't actually have a reason to go to the gym anymore, they're the ones that are more likely to actually drop out. So you've got to check in with them. You've actually got to help them to reset goals, because if you're good at what you do, you've probably helped them tick off their first one. You just need to set something else. So number 1 is call, particularly set them up well in that onboarding process. Call them in week 1, but also every 6 weeks to keep resetting goals for them and helping them to work towards something new. Number 2 is go out to your members regularly and survey them. My recommendation for surveys is use something like SurveyMonkey, which is free. It's a really easy process for people to go through and fill out their answers. I would send out the survey link via SMS so that you get a higher completion rate. and yeah, put a little bit of an incentive in there. So, take 2 minutes to fill in the survey, go in the draw to win a $100 Westfield voucher. Now, something like that is a great opportunity not only to get feedback on what you're doing well, but more importantly, it gives someone the opportunity to actually let you know if there's broken equipment, if a trainer's coming late to a group class, or if there's something about COVID that's not being followed in terms of social distancing or whatever it might be. If you don't ask, you're not actually open to getting that feedback, and people actually just walk out the door keeping the feedback to themselves because you simply didn't ask. So number one, do regular calls. So week one, and do it every 6 weeks. Number two, make sure to send out regular survey links. We do it via SMS to get the highest opt-in rate. Number three, if you're losing members, you want to think about the 3 Ps. You want to think about product, price, and people. And in a lot of cases, your price is probably not the issue. You're not actually charging too much for your service. In my opinion, if you're actually got a higher dropout rate than you've had in the past, it's usually something to do with product or people. So what I mean by that is the product, it might be the type of class. I want you to actually go back and assess the quality of the instructor, assess their ability to actually engage people, use their names, choreograph a proper routine, check that safety protocols are followed, all those types of things that make up a great class. You actually need to check in. And in my experience, when retention actually becomes a problem, it's because we had a good instructor who then starts doing a pretty average job for whatever reason. So the product, if the product suffers, think of if you had a favorite cafe or something you went to, and as soon as the coffee stops being great, you're going to leave. And it's no different with your gym. Just because you did a good job and you had a great instructor, a few months ago, doesn't mean people are going to be loyal to you today if your product is struggling. So go back, assess the quality of your product, and make sure that that's not an issue. The other one is the people. So you want to check in and actually look at the energy around reception. Check on how many people are using names when people come through. Is there, a real energetic, inspiring and uplifting kind of attitude that we're passing on around the staff and also to our members? Or is someone having a tough time? Have they had a death in the family? Have they broken up with a boyfriend or girlfriend? Is there a particular person that's actually causing there to be a bit of a negative vibe inside the gym that might have changed your ability to retain members? So just to recap, number one, calls. Number two, survey. Number three, consider your product and people, and go back and actually assess that there's not a weakness there or something that's just happened in the last few months that's changed how much people enjoy it and therefore causing more people to drop out. And my fourth tip today, we do a first aid sheet. So the first aid process is something that I've designed. If you think of when someone injures themselves, first aid is essentially, it's not aimed at sort of fixing everything straight away, but it's aimed at getting there quickly and helping that person out until they can get, future help. And what a first aid process is for all our Gym Hub members is they're essentially using this sheet to identify 3 people every single week that are at high risk of actually leaving. So you listen at reception, there's someone that says, hey, how long have I got left in my program? They might have negative feedback about the cleanliness on the gym floor. Maybe they criticize a staff member. There's all these little things that you kind of listen out for, but they're actually signs that someone's about to leave. And as long as the staff have a process in place and they proactively consider who's most likely to leave, they go down this worksheet and they implement something and they do it fast, like a first aider would. If they take action, it's very likely that we can save that person, we can keep that member. If they do nothing, if we're reactive in retention, you'll find that the member will leave and there's not much you can actually do in that last day to save them. So just to recap, reactive retention went out 10 and 20 years ago. We need to be proactive now. You have to actually get good at retention because there are so many gyms, and you actually have to put things in place to be proactive. Today we've gone through 4 different strategies of things that you can be doing in your gym in the next 30 days to increase the number of people that stay on in your gym, so you don't have that sort of high churn rate that the big box gyms demonstrated doesn't work 10 years ago. I'm Steve from Gym Hub. If you're having an issue with retention and you'd actually like a structured strategy and something that we could come in and actually fix and implement into your gym, be sure to reach out and book a 100K game plan with me. I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. Bye. Thanks, Steve.